All right, today we're diving deep into a hidden battleground. And no, I'm not talking about some far-off conflict. We're talking about a war that can rage for years inside your own body, sometimes without you even knowing it's happening. Seriously, just think about that for a second. What if, right this moment, your body was under attack? Not just from some outside invader, but maybe even from itself. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but for millions of people, this is reality. So this internal war, it has a name, and it takes place in one of the most brutal environments imaginable, your stomach. The conflict is called gastritis, and we're about to get to know the combatants, their strategies, and the collateral damage. At its core, gastritis is really just inflammation. But that word, inflammation, that's just the medical term for a battle. It's your body's alarm system, its response to an injury or an invasion. It's the very first signal that the defensive walls of your stomach have been breached.
Every good war story needs a villain, right? Well, in this story, our main antagonist is a foreign invader, a microscopic mastermind that has absolutely perfected the art of surviving where it has no business being. Its name is Helicobacter pylori.
And you gotta appreciate its design. This thing is not an accident. It's spiral-shaped, and it has these little whip-like tails called flagella that basically act like propellers. These aren't just random features. These are highly specialized tools that let it conquer the incredibly hostile, acid-soaked world of the human stomach. And get this, it has a brilliant attack plan. First, to survive that vat of acid, it pumps out an enzyme called urease. This creates a little cloud of neutralizing ammonia all around it, like its own personal force field. Then it uses those little propeller tails to literally drill its way through the protective mucus layer. And once it reaches the delicate cells of your stomach lining, it latches on and sounds the alarm, forcing your own cells to release something called IL-8, which is basically a 911 call for inflammatory cells to rush to the scene.
But its most cunning trick? Oh, it's pure espionage. To make sure it can stick around for the long haul, H. pylori actually tricks your stomach cells into putting up a false flag, a protein called B7H1. So when your T cells, the elite soldiers of your immune system, show up ready for a fight, they see the signal and just stand down. They think everything's fine. This is what allows the infection to become chronic and establish a long, damaging reign.
Okay, so that's villain number one. But what if the enemy isn't an invader? What if the attack comes from within? This brings us to our second villain. In a plot twist that honestly feels like a betrayal, autoimmune gastritis. In this case, there's no external bacterium to blame. It's a tragic case of mistaken identity, friendly fire. The body's own immune system, those very same T cells we just talked about, they fail to recognize friend from foe. They launch a full-scale assault on the stomach's own parietal cells, the very factories that produce stomach acid. So let's just lay out these two battle plans side by side because it really clarifies things. With H. pylori, you've got an external attacker using toxins and trickery. With autoimmune gastritis, it's an internal rebellion where the body's own defenses become the weapon. You see? Two totally different triggers and two totally different targets. So with this war raging, how do doctors even begin to figure out who the culprit is? Well, this is where the story shifts from the battlefield to the crime scene, and pathologists become the detectives, hunting for clues under the microscope. And the investigation is, well, it's incredibly meticulous. It's not good enough to just take one sample. There's a protocol called the Sydney system that recommends taking biopsies from 5 specific zones of the stomach, from the lower part, the antrum, all the way up to the main body, the corpus. And why do they do this? To make sure the detectives don't miss a single clue, because where the damage is tells them a whole lot about who did it. Okay, so once they have the tissue samples, pathologists break out their forensic toolkit. We're talking about special stains designed to make these invisible culprits visible. The standard H&E stain gives them a good first look, but for a clearer picture, they might use a Giemsa or Genta stain, which really makes the H. pylori bacteria just pop. And for the really tough cases, like when the bacteria are trying to hide after a treatment, the IHC stain acts like a homing beacon, finding them with nearly perfect accuracy. So, an H. pylori infection, it leaves behind a very distinct set of fingerprints. The detectives see a flood of neutrophils. Those are the immune system's first responder infantry, causing all sorts of damage to the stomach surface. They see that the protective mucus lining is being stripped away. And, most telling of all, they often find these things called lymphoid follicles. They're like organized immune system barracks that just do not belong in a healthy stomach lining.
It's a dead giveaway of a long-term siege.
Now, the autoimmune attack leaves completely different fingerprints. Here, the invaders are lymphocytes and plasma cells, a much more specialized unit of the immune army. Their primary mission is destruction, or what we call atrophy, of the oxyntic glands, which are the stomach's acid factories. But here's the crucial clue, the smoking gun. The damage is a targeted strike on the main body of the stomach, leaving the lower part, the antrum, completely untouched.
Now, while H. pylori and autoimmune disease are definitely the main players, they aren't the only ones out there. You've got these rarer forms that are defined by the specific type of cell causing all the trouble, like lymphocytic or eosinophilic gastritis. There's even a collagenous gastritis, marked by these thick bands of collagen, and the incredibly dangerous emphysematous gastritis, where gas-producing bacteria actually invade the stomach wall itself.
So what's the long-term damage? What happens after years and years of this chronic warfare? Well, the stomach lining doesn't just heal and go back to normal. No, it changes, it adapts. The battlefield itself is permanently scarred, and understanding this aftermath is absolutely critical.
One of the first changes you see is something called pseudo-pyloric metaplasia. I know, it's a mouthful, but think of it as the stomach's desperate attempt at a defensive renovation. After its specialized acid-producing cells get wiped out, the body replaces them with these tough, mucus-secreting cells. It's like replacing a high-tech lab with a simple concrete bunker. It's less functional, sure, but it's way more durable against the ongoing assault. But if that war just keeps dragging on, something even more dramatic can happen: intestinal metaplasia. And this isn't just a renovation anymore. This is a complete identity crisis. The stomach lining literally gets replaced by tissue that looks and acts like the intestine, even growing the specialized mucus cells you'd normally find there. The stomach is literally transforming itself to try and cope with the chronic damage.
And this right here is why all of this matters so much. While these changes are defensive moves, they can have really serious long-term consequences. Specifically, one subtype known as type 3 intestinal metaplasia has been linked to a higher risk of developing gastric cancer. Now, it's not a guarantee, not by a long shot, but it is a major warning sign that the years of damage have created a dangerously unstable environment.
So in the end, when you look under that microscope, what you're really seeing is a story of attack, of defense, of resilience, and of survival. It's a powerful reminder that even when we feel perfectly fine on the outside, our bodies can be these incredible theaters of conflict. And understanding that story, well, that's the first step to changing its outcome.